All right, guys, so I want to welcome you to tonight's presentation. 30 days to do a wholesale deal, even if you're a newbie with no cash and no credit. So, here's what we're going to be covering today, okay? One, I'm going to show you why wholesaling is the fastest way to put 5 figures in your bank account. It doesn't take money, but it will take work, although it helps if you have some money to spend on your marketing. Number two, the reasons why most new wholesalers take months to do their first deal. Yes, there are dues to be paid, but it does not need to take that long, I promise you. Three, I want to show you guys the most common mistakes most wholesalers make. You guys have to avoid these. Four, I'm going to give you my recommendations, my tools that you need to get your deals done. So many times there's just so many tools out there. Trying to choose between them, it can become paralyzing, and a lot of wholesalers don't even realize that that is what is actually one of the things that's holding them back. Then we're going to talk about the 30-day deal challenge, and it's going to be a 30-day step-by-step plan giving you easily digestible to-do items, kind of like a paint by number style where you just need to execute. And I'm going to be showing you what to do each and every day. And I'm going to show you guys how to do a joint venture deal with me. And then we'll do Q&A at the end. So why are we covering this? Why are we covering this now? Well, one, times are changing, man. The status quo right now is not comfortably sustainable for the average person. Things are not getting better for the average family. Gas, food prices, I'm sure you guys have felt this. It is skyrocketing. It's rare that I meet someone that is not affected by this. Inflation's on the rise. Everyday people who are working hard. I'm not talking about lazy people. They're feeling that squeeze. And you're working a lot harder and you're getting compensated less in a lot of cases, sometimes just to put food on the table or gas in your gas tank. And so if you're here right now, I'm assuming that you know that you have to make a change. Like, something has to change. You can't keep living like this, or at least living like this comfortably. So I'm going to start today with a big promise. This is my goal. It's something I've been working on for some time now, right? Really, really excited. But I am going to do a wholesale deal with you in 30 days. And so I always start my presentations with a little bit of inspiration. Again, my favorite testimonial is one of my earliest students, Belinda, and she just said, guys, once upon a time, I was so broke, I went to bed with an empty tummy on multiple occasions and back-to-back days straight. I made deals happen free of charge with no money, not even marketing funds. Mike's techniques were what got me the first deal of many. $19,025 on our first deal. And that was again, it's one of my earlier students, so a few years ago. So people were like, hey man, is this still working? And I want to tell you, wholesaling is alive and well. It is still working regardless of any market conditions. I just shoved this in here. I got this actually yesterday. This is another student in my program. This is one of his HUDs from this week, so $15,500 in profit. He actually made $26,000 in profit. I just didn't have time to take the screenshot. But I'll be sharing that on my social media later. So look, I think everyone who knows me probably is here already knows who I am, so I'm not going to go into my background story again. But again, real quick, full-time wholesale in South Florida. I've been in business since 2012. I flipped hundreds of houses, first deal without spending a penny. Quit my 9-to-5 job in less than 6 months after doing my first deal. Made my first 6 figures in 12 months. I work at average about 20 hours a week in my wholesaling business, and almost all of my work is done remotely. Again, I think most of you guys know my background story. If you don't, you can go to my website, and there's a much longer version to this. I don't want to bore you with this, but I do want to tell you why I'm very passionate about wholesaling and also just teaching this and entrepreneurship in general. Because I followed the blueprint. I went to school. I went to a very good school. I went to Duke University, graduated 2007. I had 6 figures in loans, but I was like, hey man, I got this fancy degree. Like, I'm good. I made it. Like, I'm going to be an amazing earner. And I got a job, but the thing with the job is, all this stuff here, man. I was living paycheck to paycheck, and I had a decent job, right? Miami's just not a cheap place to live in. And I never had enough money. I was getting phones disconnected, utilities turned off, borrowing money from my parents, like, what do you call those things? Overdraft fees. It's just ridiculous. I'd get up at 5 a.m. every day. I was working 60-plus hours a week. No exaggeration, probably more than that. Sitting in Miami traffic twice a day, like a 2-hour commute each way. Not being in control of my time schedule. Hated the dress code. Hated having a boss. The idea of just asking permission for everything. May I have a day off? Like, it's just ridiculous. Office politics. The list goes on and on. I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to this. And so, the worst part of it all is I was missing out on Jade's life. And that was really the line in the sand for me, where I was like, man, I'm not doing this anymore, right? But the real idea is I felt kind of scammed, right? This society told us, like, hey, if you do this, you're responsible. You go take out these loans and get this degree, you'll be secure, you'll be fine. And that's a blueprint from like the 50s. And so you might have heard this 40-40-40 scam is where you make someone else rich by working 40 hours a week for 40 years and then try to retire on 40% of what you couldn't afford to live off of in the first place. So without going through the whole story and like the the cliff notes here is that I learned about wholesaling online. I attended a RIA meeting. I was like, man, I'm sold. I committed. I did my first deal, copied the actual check, did my second deal, and I was like, man, I'm sold. I did these deals with no money down, and these were actually small deals, but it was still what I would make in a month, right? And I was doing this part-time, so I was like, listen, I'm sold. So I'm here to tell you, for sure, right now, in today's market, wholesaling is by far the fastest way for everyday people to make 5 figures in the next 4 to 6 weeks, and you can make 6 figures in the next 12 months, and that's with just doing one deal a month with just a phone and a laptop. Gonna take some work, but it can be done. I'm sure you guys know this wholesaling process, but I'm gonna breeze through this really quickly as a recap. So here's the process. Step 1, you gotta find a distressed, a motivated seller and or a physically distressed property, and oftentimes there's some overlap there. Then you're going to negotiate with the seller a win-win situation whereby you say, listen, I can't pay you retail for this. I'm an investor. I got to make a profit, but I'll pay you in cash. I'll pay you super fast. I'll take the property as is if you give me a good deal. You put the property under contract, and then you are going to, your purchase price, let's say $100,000. You're going to mark it up, and then, let's say you want to mark it up $20,000. So then you advertise it to cash buyers for, let's say, $120,000, and you make that spread. You keep the difference. So you'll take all your paperwork, you'll send it to your friendly local title company, and then you will cash checks and start getting your wire transfers and or checks. Pretty simple. Now, next question I get is, well, like, who the hell is going to sell their home at a discount like that for 70% of its value? It happens every single day. And no matter what happens with the market, with economic times, whether recession, you are a middleman, right? That's what your grocery store does every day. They buy something from direct from the source, they mark it up a little bit, they sell it to you. You go to Publix, go to Walmart, everybody does it, even Amazon. But here's why you're not this unethical, opportunistic vulture. And also, I'm going to stress again, as the middleman, you can thrive in a seller's market, in a buyer's market, good times, bad times, it doesn't matter because you're dealing with both sides of the equation, buyers and sellers. But the reality is, no matter what happens in this market, people will always be getting divorced. People will always pass away. That's probate. People will always be going into foreclosure. Properties will always get damaged. You have natural disasters. You have hurricanes. You have vacant properties. You have tired landlords. That is never going to stop happening. So here's a quick scenario just to show you why, because some wholesalers who are behaving kind of unethical ways do give the business kind of a bad name sometimes, but this is why you're not an unethical person, okay? So let's say it's a scenario, a homeowner has a house, it's worth $100,000, they got a good job. Over the last, 10 years, they pay off 50% of their mortgage, but then they lose their job. Something happens. Maybe it was COVID, who knows? And then after months of trying to recover, the bank's ready to foreclose, right? So they have 2 options, or you have 2 options rather. Option number 1, you say, I don't want to get involved, I do nothing. Right? So the bank forecloses on their home. The owner gets kicked out the house. The sheriff forbids them from re-entering the premises. They have no money. They got nothing to show from the sale, or from the house rather. Their foreclosure is exposed. They're the talk of neighborhood gossip. They have a foreclosure, it's probably the worst part, on their credit, effectively preventing them from getting any type of loan for another decade, right? So option number 2, you offer to buy the home. You say, listen, man, I can't pay you retail, but you're in a pretty bad situation. I can buy it from you for $60,000, right? So the bank is going to get the $50,000 that they owe. They go away. That problem disappears. The seller gets to walk away with $10,000. And is it ideal? No, but they're not in an ideal situation. And then they get to find a place to rent maybe until they get back on their feet. There's no negative remarks on their credit. There's no social stigma. And they're eligible for a new loan in the future, so they can buy another house. Maybe they have to downsize or what have you. And then you take that property, you bought it, or you didn't buy it, but you put it under contract for $60,000. Now you offer it to a cash buyer for $70,000. So they give you the 70, you use the 60 to pay. You make $10,000. The end buyer gets a great deal because remember the house is worth $100,000. Now everyone's happy. It is essentially the pawn shop model. You're a pawn shop, but for real estate. And again, I really want to stress with you guys, there will always be deals. And I like just stressing that because so many people are just kind of naysayers out there. And here's a fundamental concept that you really need to push through. People always ask me, Mike, how do I get a seller to take a low offer? And the idea here is that you are not trying to make something into a deal. If somebody is not in one of these situations, they're not going to sell you at a discount, the type of discount you need. When I said the pawn shop model, nobody walks into a pawn shop because they want to sell something at full price. If someone, let's say, an example I like to use is, let's say a woman has an engagement ring, it's worth $10,000. If she's in a happy relationship and she's not stressed by money, she's not going to walk into a pawn shop and try to sell it to you for a big discount. But let's say maybe she broke up with her fiance and maybe she's going to get evicted. Well, then that woman's going to go in with a $10,000 ring and pawn it off for like $6,000. right? So you are not trying to make something into a deal. You are understanding that these deals exist, even though they are the minority, they exist, and you just have to find them. A little needle in the haystack, but you just have to find them. And you will get paid, and paid well, for finding them. So that's just like a mental shift that I think a lot of you guys need to make, all right? So how do you make wholesaling work for you? I'm going to show you why it hasn't been working. Some of the culprits that most people kind of overlook in some cases because it's so simple, and what you should be doing instead. So the first thing I see, and we're going to start from kind of the beginning of the process, is improper targeting. And when I say improper targeting, I'm talking about your physical market, and I'm talking about the types of properties that you're getting under contract or that you're looking at. So I have an application when people apply to work with me, and one of the questions are, where are you wholesaling? And these are actual answers. People are putting, look at all of these different places that beginners, a lot of these guys are beginners, are trying to wholesale. Every single state in America, I want to be everywhere, right? And I'm not saying you can't be in multiple places, but especially, and I'm talking to a lot of my beginners out there, you can't be trying to do all these different markets and all this different stuff at once. You want to focus on one market. So another analogy I like to make is this mistake of going wide and shallow. And so the analogy is, if we look at our buddy right here on the left, let's say that you were digging for gold, right? And you dug across every square foot of the United States, but you only dug your hole like 2 feet deep. Well, you would be working very hard, and some of you are working very hard. I'm not taking away from your hard work, but you'd be working very hard, but you would never find gold. You know what I'm saying? Like, it would just be a waste of your time, and you'd be working hard, wasting your time, money, energy. Now, on the other hand, let's say you do your research. You say, hey, where has gold been found? Where are the prospectors finding gold? What machinery are they using? And you go and you figure out what they're doing and where they are, where the large deposits have been found. And then you say, okay, now I'm going to go use that same equipment. And instead of going wide and shallow, I'm going to go really, really narrow and deep. You have a much, much better chance of finding that gold that you're looking for. The average new restaurant owner, that's why a lot of restaurant owners go out of business, because they expand too fast. You can't open 6 restaurants at once, especially if you're working with limited resources. Next, you have to know, where is the demand? And so you have to reject any feelings, any emotions, any speculation, any type of hearsay. You might like an area, or your auntie might tell you an area looks like it's up and coming. You have to put that emotional shit out of your head. And everything you do needs to be based on and justified by data. So what you want to do is you want to pull a list of these are cash purchases. I'll show you guys how to do this in a bit. And build out heat maps, right? Physical representations on a map of where the demand is. You want to know where the most purchases going down. Where are your buyers buying? So when you do that, you're going to create maps just like this. This is an exercise that my students do. And you'll see here, this is going to be a much worse area to be working in than somewhere like this. We see the concentration there. We know the demand is there. Simple supply and demand. Right? So now you know, okay, I'm going to focus all of my efforts here because that's going to give me the best chance of doing a deal. Now, once you have your target market locked in, you want to perform the same exercise, look at all the investor, the cash purchases, but then you want to manipulate the data and look for trends. So what the area, the volume, the prices, the size, the types of properties, the aesthetics, what are buyers actually buying? Where are they buying and what prices are they paying? And you're not looking at hypothetical, what's the word I'm looking for here? Predictions. You're looking at actual purchases. And this is available, in the public record. And you can also, there's different software and stuff that you can use. And I'll get into that in a moment. So, for example, in my market, what's selling and working for me best? Entry-level single-family homes. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, over 1,000 square feet. These are like starter homes. Concrete block. I live in Florida, so there are wood frame houses. I have sold them. They sell. But most people, because it's hurricane, we get hurricanes down here, they prefer concrete block. I know that. Ideally, I don't want to be in war zones. I don't want to be in very luxurious places. There are buyers for that. But I mean, if you really want to hedge your bets in terms of what's most likely to sell, this is kind of where you want to be. No gated communities. Sometimes the HOA is a pain in the ass. Sometimes showings are hard. Not saying you can't do it, but again, we're trying to create an archetype of what is most desirable and what has the largest chance of being sold. No 55 plus, stuff like that. Next, that max allowable offer formula. This one drives me crazy, man. So most of you guys know this. ARV, after repair value, times 70%, minus your repairs, minus your profits. Now, that formula has been taught for ages. A big part of where that comes from is because that 70%, that's what typical hard money lenders are willing to lend on investment properties. But what you guys need to understand is that that is a great baseline. It's a great place to start, but it's not the end all be all, right? It's a good baseline. So what you want to do is ditch that formula. In a way, it's too limiting, and it is a little bit antiquated, especially for the market we're in today, because it's predicated on the assumption that all cash buyers are buying for the same reason. So if we look at some different examples of cash buyers, buyer A is using his own cash. They want to do a quick flip. Buyer B using hard money, paying origination fees, application fees, 4 points, 14% on the loan. They need a much bigger spread. The money's costing them more. Buyer C, they want to buy for long-term passive rental income. Buyer D, they just like an area. Maybe they own 5 properties in that neighborhood. They're willing to pay a premium. Buyer E, maybe they're buying based on speculation that a neighborhood is up and coming. You know, the next buyer, they're an international buyer that just wants to put their money in secure U.S. real estate. So that formula that you guys are so stuck on, it's not representative of all these different people's goals. I have some buyers who will, take a house if they can make 20 grand. Some buyers won't touch anything with a profit is less than $50,000. And so, you can't just go off of that one formula. You have to know what buyers are actually buying, what they're paying for. And that's why doing your market research and having that intel is so important. The other thing is that the market is changing. So when it's a seller's market, it's going to look a little bit different from a buyer's market, but that's no need to worry. In my market, for example, it's very difficult to get properties in that 70% range, minus repairs, minus your profit. But buyers are paying a premium because inventory is significantly lower than it's been in years. So I'm regularly able to wholesale things 80-85% of ARV. A rising tide raises all boats. I've had students say to me, hey man, I can't get a property because there's too much demand, too much competition. I say, well, if there are 20 people bidding on a property, then maybe you offer a little bit higher, right? And then when you have a wholesale deal under your belt, you'll have 20 buyers making offers. And so an example for my gamers out here I like to use is the PS5. This thing came out, it's $499. Everyone knows the retail price. But because it's in high demand, people don't say, oh, well, nobody's buying PS5s anymore. Because they're difficult to get. No, people are paying $1,100 for a PS5, knowing damn well that the retail value is $499. So that's why you really need to be in touch with your market. So this is one of the rare cases where cheating is okay. You want to know in advance, objectively where your buyers are buying. You want to know what your buyers are buying, and you want to know what they're paying, and in a lot of cases, what they're doing, how they're rehabbing these properties. Are they flipping them? Are they renting them? This is all intel that's really going to help you by doing these exercises first to know where you're targeting and what deals to go after that are going to sell the best. And so you want to find properties that resemble the intel that you have, things that you've discovered. I love my analogies, right? So back to that, I want to ask you guys this question. Assuming the same profit margins, right? Which is going to be easier to sell in your restaurant? Bone-in tomahawk steak cooked to perfection, which is medium rare, by the way. Or this dry as hell overcooked mystery cut, right? Now, it's kind of a trick question, but not really. But the answer that most of us is going to say is this, right? This tomahawk. But what if this is your restaurant? What if you were trying to sell this product in a vegan restaurant? It's not going to sell because there's a mismatch between your buyers and what they're buying and your product. You really have to think about who you're serving, and that's why you have to do that initial research. Neiman Marcus does not sell the same clothes as Walmart. You have to have an avatar for your buyer and the properties that they want to purchase. So you want to reverse engineer your results like this. You guys may have heard the term reverse wholesaling, which says build your buyers list first and then find your deals. Now, if you know what your buyers want, that's kind of smart, but and it does make your deals easier to sell, and you should do that in time. But it will extend the time it takes to do your first deal. A lot of times, it takes some time to build up those buyers, and it can serve as a means of procrastination. Am I ready yet? I don't have the buyers, and it can provide a false sense of security, and it can turn off prospective buyers when you're promising them deals and you have no inventory. So instead, what you want to do is reverse engineer for data and intel first, while passively building up that buyers list. And you should be actively searching for those properties, and then you go back to those buyers, same buyers, reach out. Hey man, I got some stuff similar to what you purchased. Here it is. And so I went through that end part a little bit quickly because I have a spoiler alert for you here. I am going to give you this information so you don't have to do all of this intel, all this market research as a part of our 30-day challenge. So it's kind of a done-for-you solution. So make sure you stay tuned to the end, and I'll tell you exactly how we're going to do that. All right. Step 2 is going to be strategy selection and shiny object syndrome. So a lot of times people are asking, what's the best way to do this? Is it direct mail? Is it RVM, text blasting? The reality is all of those things work. It's very rarely the strategy itself. But most of the times, these things are not working for you personally, is because you're spreading yourself too thin. You are attempting too many strategies. I see this all the time. It's crazy, how many things people jump from. This strategy, this strategy, this strategy. And also, maybe you haven't given them sufficient time or operated with enough volume to see those consistent results. And again, a lot of times when that happens, you do switch strategies, or you aren't consistent with your processes, your marketing, your lead generation, your follow-up. And so we're going to get deeper into each one of these concepts in just a minute. So basically, like when I first started wholesaling, it was almost 10 years ago. One of the issues I had is that there was not enough information. We didn't have all these YouTube channels. It was kind of hard to get information, so you didn't really know what to do. You had to go to local RIA meetings, and even there, some people were a little bit not at my RIA, but I've been to ones where they're a little stingy with the info, right? Nowadays, it's one of the big issues I see is that there's too much information, right? So you have all this information coming into you to the point where you're like overwhelmed. What should I do? I don't know how to structure my day. It's a paralysis analysis, all this different stuff. And so earlier I made this very crude or very sophisticated, depending on how you look at it, graphic, which basically, if we look at it here, what I'm attempting to say here is this is your deal here, right? You cross this red line, you do a deal. And so these little colored bars here represent your resources, so in some cases that's going to be the amount of money you have. It might be a certain software you have. It might be a strategy. Maybe one of these is direct mail. Maybe the other one is text blasting, stuff like that. And if you are, it could be your market, things like that, right? So what happens is I see a lot of people doing a little bit of everything. And so maybe even here you make a lot of progress and you get pretty close, but then you're like, oh, this isn't working. And you see a webinar and someone's like, hey, if you use this software, it's push button system, try this. And then you go and try that. And then that doesn't work. And then you give it 2 weeks. And then you hear someone else say this at a RIA meeting. Then you try something else. And you're trying 10 different things at once. You're losing sight of your process. You're not following up. Things are falling through the crack. Whereas you would be far more successful if you took all of your resources, you focus on one market, you focus on one strategy, you put all of your money into one thing. And there are some exceptions to the rule, and there are times where you cycle different tactics, but they're going towards the same thing. So I'll talk about that in just a second as well. But when you put all that stuff together, you're much more likely, you're on that, again, going deep and narrow path, you're much, much more likely, I'd say almost guaranteed, as long as you are doing this with consistency, to get that next deal done. So I'm going to expand on this as we go into number 3, which is going to be your data, your tools, and your resources. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Just know that you need to have reliable and accurate data, but you don't need to obsess over finding the very best, because different software systems or resources will have pros and cons to each, and you don't want to get in that, again, analysis paralysis, I'm stuck mode, but you do need to make sure that you are getting reliable and accurate data. It is ideal also if your data integrates with your CRM and your systems that you're using. So again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I'm giving you my recommendations and a solution for this at the end as we go ahead and talk about that 30-day challenge. So make sure you stay tuned until the end for my personal recommendations. Excuse me. All right. So next, planning, habits, KPIs, metrics, systems, processes. This is where a lot of you guys are dropping the ball. I'm going to tell you guys that knowing is not enough. I know that, yes, education is important, and I'm glad you guys are watching the videos and always self-educating. That's very important, but that's not enough because, again, back to my analogies, look at how many people, especially around New Year's time, say, hey, man, this year I'm going to lose the weight. They know what to do, right? It's not that complicated, right? You burn more calories than you consume. Like, eat healthy, eat some salads, go for a run, go to the gym. Simple, right? Now, obviously, you can get a little bit more detail on that, but that's the gist of it, right? This is not a hard decision to make. You go to Barnes & Nobles, look how many books there are in the diet and nutrition section. And yet, even though these people know this stuff, look how many people are unsuccessful. Why is that? There's so much more that goes into it. Habits, routines, maybe tracking your macros. That's a little bit more advanced, but it works here. Accountability, mindset, belief systems, all these different things. And so you really want to have a holistic approach to the business, as well as a couple other things, right? That is going to give you a clear-cut path to your new office. So we want you guys out of the cubicle and working I like to work poolside, but work wherever you feel most comfortable, wherever you want to work. So the solution for this, again, focus on one strategy, especially if you're just getting started. So we talked about that. You have to set a goal, set an income goal. And then based on that, you have to know what are the metrics I need to hit that goal, right? And then you want to reverse engineer the process, all right? So I talk to someone, they say, hey man, I want to make a lot of money. I always ask people when I do my one-on-one calls, what's your income goal? And this is not to tell you to make small goals, but we want to start with something finite that we can, attach a goal to. Say, I want to make 120,000. Great. In 12 months, we divide that. That means you need to make $10,000 a month. That's on average one deal a month. So now we look at your strategy. Well, it takes X amount of calls or X amount of direct mail to do one deal a month. So then we break that down 30 days. This is what you need to do each day for 30 days. And that's how I come up with these metrics that are predictable, that let you know if you hit these numbers, you will do a deal, right? It's not random. It's predictable. We can replicate this every single month. And then from there, you have to set your daily tasks, and you have to implement those habits, those routines, have some accountability, and you need to track absolutely everything. Track those KPIs, those are your key performance indicators. Make sure that you are doing these things consistently, operating with volume. Again, I highly recommend you use a CRM. It's one of the first things I get for my students when they are in a position to afford it. When I started the business, I could not, and I worked with a very crude, just Excel spreadsheet. Huge pain in the ass, but sometimes you got to start with where you are. But I highly recommend using a CRM, and I'll give you my recommendations for that afterwards. And then you want to focus on your process. So I call this MVSF. I always mess that up. So it's going to be your market, operating with volume, speed, follow-up, and we'll talk more about those in just a second. So I'm going to touch on this idea of metrics really quickly. Knowing your metrics, knowing what it takes to actually do a deal is going to help you select your ideal strategy, because it depends on, in some cases, how much time do you have, how much money do you have. This is going to allow you to reverse engineer your activity. It's going to help you to manage your expectations and operate with predictability. An example of a metric that you guys might want to write down is you should be able to close 1 out of every 50 to 100 offers after you have approximately 300 live offers in your system. So this is how, when we're auditing something, right? Let's say you're hitting the right metrics in terms of your calls or your direct mail, and you're not getting a deal, based on these numbers. That might tell you that, hey, maybe my data's bad, right? And so that's how you can isolate the different problems that you're having, and then you can course correct and keep moving forward. And so I put this graphic down here just to kind of illustrate this idea of managing expectations. When you know where you need to be and you know what it takes to do a deal, it's much easier to stay the course. So imagine you were swimming in the open ocean here and you couldn't see land anywhere. You're much more likely, because you don't know where the goal is, it could be a mile away, it could be 100 miles away, you're much more likely to quit earlier. And that's what happens to a lot of people. But let's say you're in this picture, man, that land might be 2 miles away, but as long as you can see it and you know where you need to be, you're much more likely to stay the course and just to not quit. So another example here, this is an example of a direct mail campaign. And so you can see here, this is based on real numbers, real data, and there's some variables that we can change up, like the response rate, if we want a conservative, average, or optimistic rate. We can change up the profits per house. This is a tool that I have inside of my online program. But basically, it's going to tell you, listen, if you want to make, let's say, $10,000, one house, you need to be spending about, and this is in a specific market, you can change up some of these things too, $1,700, about $2,000. And obviously, you have to, in a lot of cases, have the initial ramp-up period as well. So that tells you, like, two things. One, if you don't have that type of money, then direct mail is not going to be the best strategy for you to pursue unless you want to just kind of leave it to chance. Sometimes you can get lucky, right? But if you want to make this predictable, you know that you need to have about that type of marketing budget to be spending, to allocating. Otherwise, you may need to go after a different strategy. This also lets you know that, let's say, you spent $1,500 and then you say, hey man, this is not working, I'm going to quit. Well, then you're out negative $1,500. But if you know that, hey man, on average, if I just spent $200 more, I'll get a deal. I make $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. Well, then it's again encouraging to stay the course. So again, back to the MVSF. We talked about market, we talked about volume. That's what has to do with your metrics. Two things I just want to emphasize here: speed and follow-up. So speed is it's one of those very, very simple things. It's your competitive advantage. You cannot steal properties in slow motion. You can automate, outsource, makes it go a lot faster. The first person to respond to a lead is 248% more likely to get the contract. And sometimes, again, the most effective strategies are the simplest. Let's say, for example, a potential seller hits your website, they enter your information. You can set your notifications to send you a text message and respond ASAP. So here's a little bit a hack if you guys want to write this down. This is a Gmail, or rather a Google Chrome extension. And what you can do is you can have anytime someone hits your website, they put their information in, you're going to get an email, but you can set up to automatically send you a text message. That way you can respond a lot faster. So things like that, these little hacks, these little 1% increments in your processes can really help you to gain a competitive edge over any type of competition, or just to make sure that you're getting to these deals a lot faster. Quote from Inside Sales says you're 100 times more likely to contact a web-based lead if you return their call within 5 minutes, 21 times more likely to enter the sales cycle. Most wholesalers are not doing this. And then this is probably the biggest one I want to stress, and probably one of the biggest mistakes I see, especially with new wholesalers, is a lack of follow-up. The money is in the follow-up. I want you guys say that with me, man. Type it in the chat. The money is in the follow-up. You have to have an appropriate follow-up system with standard intervals in place. It's a must-have. If your offer is accepted the first time, oftentimes, not always, but a lot of times, it means you just offer too high. Most of my deals are not accepted the first time. 48% of wholesalers never follow up all their potential leads after the initial contact. That's crazy. And 80% of deals are made within the 5th to 12th point of contact. So, the numbers don't lie. This is super, super important, all right? So when should you follow up? How often? You really need those predefined SOPs in place, that's standard operating procedures. And that's not just, obviously that's crucial if you have a team, if you're working with VAs, employees, but you need standard operating procedures and guidelines for yourself. And that's something that I teach, and something that we'll talk about in just a minute. And remember, your process and your actions, that's really one of the, if not the main thing that's going to determine your success. So many people are focused on the list, but these are the keys that people are really, really missing. You don't need to worry about competition when you do this stuff right. This is, a lot of things that your so-called competition is really not doing, all right? So the next thing is you're going to need access to legitimate cash buyers. And I say legitimate, this is so important. I'll show you why in just a second. But in order to do deals, especially no money down deals, you need to have a Rolodex of reliable cash buyers to sell your deals to. When I first started in this business, I thought cash buyers were rare. If you ask me what percentage of buyers were buying cash, I'd say probably about 10% when I started. Now, if we look at the statistics, it's actually nationwide closer to 40%. And so that's a huge number. And if you're in a higher in-demand area like I am, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, 64% of all sales cash buyers, 62% in Vegas, 59% in Tampa. There's no shortage of cash buyers, and we're talking about hard money, private money. It's the same thing as cash for our purposes. So how do we find these buyers? This is going to be my favorite method to show you guys. But there's a little hack to it, and then I got it for you at the end. Not all buyers are created equally. Best indicator of future behavior is, FBI teaches this, it is past behavior. So this is how I built a massive buyers list of quality repeat cash buyers. When somebody purchases a property, it goes into the public record, right? Your recorder of deeds is going to record the purchase, and what's going to happen is when there is a mortgage involved, the lender involved, that gets recorded. So you're going to see this on property. You go to property appraiser site, you look up in the public record, you're going to see the bank name, First Equity Mortgage. Now, if you go and there is no lender there, it could be an error, but in most cases, that's indicative that this was a purchase made with cash. This is the best way to go about this. I know some of you guys can go to let's say Fiverr or stuff like that and buy lists of cash buyers. I'll tell you, and some of you prefer this because you're like, oh, these are better lists because it comes with a phone number and an email address. What happens with a lot of those lists are these are people who are self-selecting into these lists. So I can go to a website right now and I'll say, my name is John Smith, and I have $1 million, and I'm a cash buyer. Here's my phone number. Here's my email. And whoever is on the back end of that will take that information, repackage it, and sell it to you. And you're gonna feel happy. You're gonna be like, oh, this is I got his phone number and I got his email. but that buyer is not vetted. And so a lot of those lists, not all of them, but in a lot of cases, a lot of entries on that list are people who have self-selected in, and they tend to be other wholesalers. They can be, realtors looking for leads, stuff like that. Now, when you go to the public record, this is stuff you can't fake, right? This is actual purchases that have been made. This gets recorded when you go through, your title company and stuff like that. So this is some of the best quality data you can have. So then what you want to do is you can take these lists, right, and you can actually purchase this information. You can go to the public record and find it, but there are ways to purchase this information relatively inexpensively. And then what you want to do is you can send them a letter. Basically say, hey, I saw you purchase this property at 123 Main Street. I have a similar property at 546 Main Street. Take a look. It also makes you look a lot more competent and stand out from your competition, because you're not just sending them a generic letter. You're saying, I see that this is what you're doing, so clearly I know my stuff, and I have something that speaks specifically to you and your goals. Another way I've been doing this very, very successfully is with Facebook. What you do is you take this information of these cash buyers, again, proven, vetted cash buyers, create a custom audience, and then you will show them advertisements that redirect them to either a property you're selling or back to your website. And again, it's going to speak to what they are already purchasing, what they've bought, whether it's by area, zip code, demographics, or price point or price points. And so that works really, really well. But with that, I got another spoiler alert for you. There is an even faster and more efficient way to do this, and I'm going to be revealing that as we go through the 30-day challenge, and I'll get to that in about 5 minutes. So make sure you guys stick with me here. So now this brings us to the last thing. It is less learning, more action. May sound a little bit counterintuitive, may make perfect sense to you, but this is what we call mental masturbation. How many of you guys are doing this, man? You guys are just watching video after video after video, and what is it doing? It's making you feel good. There are studies that have shown that when people purchase a treadmill, they actually feel like the work is done. They feel like they've lost the weight. Now, in some cases, if they take the action, that type of motivation is really, really good. But some people just buy the treadmill and that shit will just sit in the living room and they're not actually doing the work, but they feel like they've done something. And so a lot of you guys, we talked about this earlier, this whole knowing is not enough. Knowing is cool, but knowing is not getting you paid, all right? Are you just consuming information over and over and over? Oh, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try this. Or I try a little bit of that. Like taking little samples, man. It's not going to work. Are you stuck in paralysis analysis? I know wholesalers right now who have watched thousands of videos. If I gave them a test on how to wholesale, I promise you they would pass it with 100%. They can answer everything, but they have never done a deal. You have to, it is time to fail forward and time to take action. I'll tell you a little bit of an embarrassing story, but when I first got started, I'm very much, maybe even to my detriment, a bit of a risk taker. And so when I learned about this business, I actually didn't fully understand what a title company did. And I didn't understand that process of how it worked. But I knew that, I was reading stuff and I was like, okay, I know I have the contracts, and I send it in. I just sent them all the paperwork and I was like, my name is Mike, I'm wholesaling, here's all the documents, let me know what you need. And I was like, they're going to tell me what they need, I'm going to figure this shit out on the way. And that's how I came to do my first deal. Now, I'm not recommending you necessarily take it to that extreme, because I could have potentially opened myself up to financial loss or legal issues. So I'm not saying you take it that far. You do need that foundation, right? But you gotta fail forward. You gotta start taking action. Now, I'll also tell you that it's a lot easier to take action when you have real-time guidance from someone who is well versed and knows what they're doing and has a track record. And you have a plan, and preferably a plan with small objective. They have to be objective. So you can't just tell someone make offers. You need to tell them how many offers to make. You need to tell them on what types of properties. So, and that's how I coach my students. It's like, when I give you a task, the answer when I ask you, did you complete the task? It can't be like, I'm not sure. The answer is just yes or no. If it's yes, great. We keep it moving. If it's no, we figure out why not. Were you just being lazy? Were you scared? Did something happen? Did you not know what to do? Then we address the problem, we correct it, and then we keep it moving. But it has to be an objective, measurable, tangible task. And they have to have those action steps. And again, ideally, they should be small action steps. So did I do this? Like I said, paint by number system, where all you got to do is execute. That way you avoid that overwhelm, right? Sometimes it's just a matter of in some cases, some of you guys say, man, you're trying to figure out the best thing. Just pick one. Just pick one and do it, right? I'll tell you what the best ones are to pick, but, and then also you need a system of accountability, right? So I'm going to ask you guys, who is ready to take massive action? It's about time for my drum roll where we're going to talk about this challenge, right? Do you want to do a deal in 30 days? And also, I'm going to clarify when I say this, guys. When I say you want to, I should say, do you want to have a deal in 30 days? So the goal of this program, I want it to be singular. Remember, I told you, you tend to be a lot more effective when you have one singular goal in mind. So yes, I'd like you to be the bombest wholesaler in your area. I want you to be amazing, all that stuff. I want you to do big things, multiple deals a month. But we got to start with one goal. The goal is to get that deal. So I want you to get a deal in 30 days. Now, oftentimes it can close in 30 days. Sometimes what happens is you'll have the deal, you have the buyer, all the paperwork's at the title company, and sometimes it might just take time for title to run. It might have to clear up a couple issues that might take an extra week, couple weeks. So it might take you a little bit longer to close. Not always, but it might. But the goal for this is to make sure you have that deal solid, buyer, seller there, buyer there, and you're basically just waiting to get paid. So that's the goal here. That's what we want to do. So if you guys are ready, let's go ahead and talk about the challenge. Let me show you guys how it works. All right. So I want to give you absolutely everything that you need to do a deal. So the first thing I'm going to start with is giving you access to my my flagship program, Wholesale and Mike University, value $2,997. Again, remember the average one deal. If you just do one deal, you should be bringing at least $10,000. But this is my flagship online program. Now, again, I'm not just pitching you guys a course here. I like to, again, don't get it twisted. This is going to be action-oriented. I think courses are great, but courses alone, because of things we talked about, like that accountability and, routine, stuff like that, they're oftentimes, for a lot of people, not enough to produce results, or at least produce very fast results. So no matter how great a course or a seminar or anything is like that, nothing's going to take the place of real-life learning and actually doing the business. This is going to be an action-oriented challenge that's designed to get you to do that deal in 30 days. So I don't want you to get caught up in that vicious cycle we just talked about, the always learning and paralysis analysis, all that stuff. We want to focus on taking action. That said, you should have a strong foundation. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use select lessons. I'm going to show you how to navigate this in like hyper mode, like what's most important. And there are materials inside of the platform that you're going to need. So we're going to use those first. And then later, you can go back inside and you can look at the additional supplemental advanced strategies. I'll be adding stuff to there, stuff like that. But at least you have this as your basis, as your foundation. This is just a sample of some of the things that's inside my Wholesale and Mike University. You get 20 hours of core content, 20 plus hours, core content. These are videos. It's actionable to-do steps. You're going to understand everything about the process. It's evergreen content. So if you ever bought a course and then they're talking about shit from like 5 years ago, if there's anything in the program that gets outdated, or if there's anything that, I don't know, a new software comes out, something like that, I love the idea of having something online because I can just pull out the old video, make a new one, and put it back in. That way, you're always keeping up to date. Like when I first started, my first course that I had is a binder. And a lot of that stuff is still relevant to this day, but it's a binder. You can't update it, right? So this is just to make sure that you're not using any outdated techniques. And again, the content is designed, because I know how I think and how a lot of you guys work, to make sure that it's easily digestible. The lessons are just very poignant. Like so you don't get overwhelmed, right? Also, all the tools that you're going to need are in here. So there's the tools and forms vault. You're going to have contracts, clauses, addenda, everything you need to do your deals. There's downloadable templates, there's tools, there's marketing materials, there's samples, there's over-the-shoulder style guided video. If you guys need something, you let me know. I will make videos, or I will get you the information or the updated contracts, whatever, and put them into the program. It's something I've committed to. I want it evergreen, and so it's always growing. So I do take that type of feedback as well. You got things in there like my rehab estimator tool, showing you how to estimate repairs, make intelligent offers. You have access to all of my scripts. You got recordings of live training calls, all my ebooks. Basically, everything I've ever created and will create is just getting packed in there. But again, I'll pull out stuff that's not relevant, so you're never going to have any type of fluff. It's going to be stuff you need, and it also tells you, listen, this is what you need, and I say this is supplemental if you just want to check it out on your own, right? So you're not getting ever overwhelmed. Next thing I want to offer you as part of this is access to our Facebook Mastermind group, $497 value, network, joint venture, find accountability, other partners, join exclusive live video chats, ask me questions, do Q&A sessions with me, and make some friends. Again, this is one of Napoleon Hill's principles on wealth attainment. Next, I'm going to give you guys lifetime access to group mentoring. It's like a $3,000 value. This is going to be, again, lifetime. This is when we do live bi-weekly group coaching calls. You can do this from the comfort of your home over Zoom. I'm going to be teaching new techniques, reviewing deals, answering questions, role play, providing feedback, and more. Recordings are available, but really, it really helps to make it to the live calls. Now, this is where we start getting interesting. I want to make sure that you guys do this challenge, have absolutely everything that you need to do your deal. Everything. So you don't have to go outside and get any outside resources. All right, so I'm going to give you 30 days access, and I'll be paying for of my preferred CRM, which is going to also include, I'm going to help you with the setup and the training of this. and even throw in some other good stuff. But you're going to get accurate data and motivated seller search criteria, including things like pre-foreclosures, equity search, active equity, potential equity, probates, tax delinquents, tired landlords, short sales, bank-owned auctions, repairs for sale, vacant, code violations, all different criteria to build up your list. You're going to have all the lists that you need for the challenge, and you're going to have the ability to custom build some lists. I'm going to show you guys how to build up. You will have MLS access. You will have a professional dialer with a dedicated phone line. You're going to have a bulk offer making system, electronic document signing. You'll have skip tracing included. It's going to be emails, several phone numbers, cell phone, relative data. You'll have do not call list filtering, text messaging, access to accurate comps, analysis, reporting. There are multiple different types of reports you can do. Property analysis report, exit report, BPO report, all kinds of stuff. There's a mobile app. We are going to be doing this challenge virtually, but if you're local to the area, you can do that. Access to verified cash buyer data we talked about, mailing campaign manager, follow-up system, and just much more. It's an incredibly powerful system. It's everything you need to run your business. Right? So all of that's going to be included. You're going to have that for 30 days of this challenge. Next, 30 days of instructions. So you guys are going to be sitting with me just like this. 1997 value. What we're going to do is we're going to meet each day. It's going to be live. And we're going to do that for 30 days. I'm sorry, we're going to do this meet each weekday, right? So your weekends will be catch-up days. There's going to be some homework here, right? Where I'm going to be teaching and I'm going to be demonstrating. So basically, you need to just watch my screen and just do what I do. Follow along with me. It will be interactive. You'll be able to ask me questions. But again, remember, I am doing this challenge with you. So while you guys are doing deals, I'm going to be doing deals. We're going to be doing deals together, right? Then we'll do Q&A if you guys have questions as we go through. At the end, again, it's going to be very interactive. And then you're going to have a homework assignment. So both the lessons that you learn and the homework is designed to give you, again, clear, objective, tasks that are going to be delivered in small, easily digestible chunks. That's so you never suffer from any type of confusion, no paralysis analysis, and or overwhelm. So it's going to be very intense. But guys, the reward here, man, is worth it. Like, bust your ass for 30 days, and let me show you how this thing works. Okay. It'll be intense, but again, try your best. Keep up with the work. Do not fall behind. The formula laid out will work for anybody in this challenge. And so here might be one of the biggest things I can offer you and why I kind of designed the program this way. I'm going to sell your deal for you, okay? So the challenge will be done virtually. You will do your deal without ever meeting a seller, without meeting a buyer, and without ever seeing a property. We will be doing this challenge within the state of Florida. Now, people are asking, well, what if I live elsewhere or anything like that? You can still follow along, but the challenge is going to be specifically for properties in Florida. Now, why do you say that? Well, I'm getting to that right now. As most of you guys know, my business is run personally, pretty much exclusively here in Florida. So all you guys need to worry about is basically 50% of the process. So all you need to worry about is getting your contract signed. My team and I are going to handle all of the disposition. So showing the property and selling it to one of my cash buyers. Now, building a cash buyers list. It is crucial to your business. You do want to do this. But building a high quality and reliable cash buyers list, it does take some time. Now, I've been consistently building my buyers list since 2012. I have over 20,000 hungry buyers on my list. So if you send me a deal, even if it's not that perfect 70%, if it's got some meat on the bone, I can sell these things in as little as 48 hours. Now, again, this is a challenge that's designed in such a way that, oftentimes, and the way that I went about my journey was to get my mentor, one-on-one mentor. Some of you guys, that the price point might be a little bit high for you right now. So I designed this course, or this challenge rather, in such a way where how can I make this a win-win situation? And so what we will be doing, again, you're going to be working here in Florida. The MLS access, the CRM that is designed to work here in Florida. Again, you could apply this other places. That CRM will give you data to a couple other states. But again, if you want this value here, which is, again, me selling the deal for you, you're going to do these deals in Florida. We will split the profit 50-50. If you find your own buyer, you're more than welcome. You keep 100% of your profits, but I'm going to be selling it for you 50-50. And so I'm creating a win-win situation. Now, it's funny. I've had people say to me, they're like, Mike, you just do these challenges, or, some of your students, you're using people as bird dogs. And I say, absolutely. I'm completely transparent with this, guys. Like, that's what I did when I started my mentor. I was very happy. I didn't have a buyer's list when I first started, so especially a lot of my earliest deals, and even some of my later deals, But I would send it to him, and he was more than happy that I was bringing him deals, right? And I was more than happy he was selling for me. So it's a win-win situation, 50-50. And in this sense, I'm also incentivized to train you better, to follow up with you better, to make sure that you succeed, because I'm also going to benefit, right? So we're both going to be making money. So with this, it's a recap of everything you're going to be getting here today. So it's Wholesale on Mike University. $3,000 value, step-by-step curriculum, access to tools and forms, rehab estimated software, wholesaling scripts, Facebook Mastermind Group access worth $497, lifetime access to group mentoring worth $29.97. What else do we have? 30-day access with setup training. That's going to be worth $599. 30 days of step-by-step instruction valued at $19.97, and access to my buyers list $49.97. I came up with that number because that's basically half of what one deal is. I know a lot of you guys have seen presentations like this, and people tend to over-exaggerate some of the value of some of these things. If anything, these are undervalued, and I promise you that, because if you do one deal, it should be about $10,000 if you do it on your own. It could be more than that. I've had at this time a student in my program with the highest one deal is $55,000, right? Maybe you could do higher than that, but again, by no means is any of this exaggerated. So the total value of what I'm putting on here is $14,084. Now, obviously, I am not charging that to participate in this challenge. So you don't have to pay $14,000, but I just want to ask you, if you did pay 14 grand, would it be worth it if you were able to make $19,000 like Belinda, who I showed you earlier? Would it be worth it if you made $40,000 on your first deal like Miles? Would it be worth it if you made $49,108.73 like my student Logan? And I actually have a lot more testimonies that I'll show you guys, but I think you guys kind of get the point here. Would it be worth $14,000? Of course it would, right? But what am I going to charge today? Well, in the interest of what we charge on the internet, everything's got to end in 9.7, right? You're going to get everything for $9.97. It's a hell of a deal, hell of a steal. I'm buying resources outside of this for you on your behalf, putting you in that CRM, getting you the skip tracing, stuff like that. So remember, the deal includes everything you need to do the deal. There's no additional expenditures that are necessary. I'm, again, incentivized to ensure that you succeed. We will split those profits 50-50. So that's why I'm able to offer this much cheaper than anything else, much cheaper than any type of mentoring, because I know that if you stick with this and do this, we're both going to get paid. Right? And so that's where, on the back end, me as a coach and mentor, and like I love teaching this stuff, you guys can tell, that's where the real money's going to come from. And yes, financing is available. So PayPal has two different forms of financing. You have what's called Pay in 4, and then you have PayPal Credit. So Pay in 4, if the thing is $9.97, you'll see, I'll give you the link in just a second, where you're going to go to the checkout page, you click on the PayPal, put in your information, click the PayPal button, you'll see an option for Pay in 4. That means you get access to the whole program, everything that's included, starting for as little as like $250, okay, $250, guys. And then if you want to do PayPal Credit, there'll be a separate button on the checkout page that says PayPal Credit. That you have to apply for. PayPal will decide if they approve you or not. It has nothing to do with me. But the good thing about that is that you have no interest if you pay in full within 6 months. And guys, if you follow the program, you'll be doing deals within 6 months, okay? Multiple deals. And then also remember that the investment today is tax deductible, so you can deduct this expenditure from your taxes. So if you guys want to get down with this challenge, here's the website: www.wholesalingwithmike.info/30-day challenge. All one word, like no hyphens or whatever. So I'll leave that up there for a second. I'll also, when we get to our Q&A at the end, I'll drop it in the chat box for you, okay? And yes, this is a guarantee here. If I can't make money, I don't deserve yours. So join the challenge. Go through the materials. Watch as much as you want to watch. Go through Wholesale on Mike University. Look at the materials. Participate in the live instruction. You need to participate to make this program work for you. And if you don't feel like it is worth every cent, just hit me up within 14 days. I'll refund your money, no questions asked. I do have a little asterisk here, just so I'm completely clear with this and transparent with you guys. I am purchasing some resources from a third party on your behalf. So that's going to be stuff like skip tracing. So if you use your skip traces, for example, those are things that I can't get back or give back or anything, and it's from a different company. So that part is not refundable. Just FYI, okay? So, $9.97 is worth it, but is it really, really worth it? Well, guys, I mean, obviously it should be clear at this point, right? I want you to imagine, again, having that clear, defined path. A lot of you have been wheel spinning, just working your ass off for a long time, but not getting results. Now you're going to know exactly what to do, to complete that deal, down to a specific number. How many calls do I have to make? How many this do I have to make? What do I have to do? What you need to do on a daily basis. No overwhelm, no guesswork. You will have me there every step of the way. If you need to ask me a question, I will be available for you every single weekday for 30 days. It's a long time. It's a big commitment on my part. You'll have live feedback and accountability. You'll get to network with like-minded individuals. You will ultimately get a deal sold, and I will sell it for you. You can do it all from the comfort of your home. Yes, we are doing this entire challenge virtually. And then the bonus is you have this knowledge, these skills. You'll have lifetime access to my coaching program, to my group coaching program, to the online platform. You'll have the skills to repeat the process every month, and I look forward to welcoming you to your true freedom and your new office, which is wherever the heck you want it to be. Of course, there is the other option, the option where you just try and go do this alone. I'm going to ask you, how has that been working out for you, man? Like a lot of people, they'll tell me, well, I'm going to do it on my own, and then I'll, work with you or some shit. And I'm like, man, how's that been working out for you? I think both you and I know that option kind of sucks. It takes a lot longer. Again, I know a lot of wholesalers or people who aspiring wholesalers been doing this a long time. They work very hard. They haven't done any deals. It can lead to costly and unnecessary mistakes because you don't have someone there to give you clear direction. I don't want you spinning your wheels anymore. I have paid my dues, okay? I've done this shit the really, really hard way. Started in 2012. Started a business with no money. Did my first deal without spending a penny. It was tough. It was hard. It took a while. Made a lot of mistakes. But after, in a little time, I wisened up. I sought some help. This is my mentor here. Then we took that. I don't know when that's from. But that's some years ago. This is my student Mike 5 years ago. Mike's a full-time wholesaler. He's flipped hundreds of houses. And so that was me when I was back in, a student in the game. But there's nothing like having someone to really walk you through this. There's no shame in asking for help and doing this stuff together. I have done it myself. I have a proven track record. I have been coaching for years. I'm not new to the game. I have a proven track record of success for myself, for my students. You can save yourself the grief of figuring it out, learning things the hard way, leaving money on the table. Even if you aren't actively losing money, there's an opportunity cost to every deal that slips through the crack. You could be missing out on $20,000, right? For every deal that you miss. And just the headache and stress of not getting results you want. So I have already made all those mistakes. I've seen all those mistakes, so you don't have to. So I would say give it a shot. Remember, it's risk-free. I got the money-back guarantee, so you really have nothing to lose. I'll leave you guys with this quote by my man Gary Vee. Roll up on that attractive woman in the bar, ask her out. Roll up on that good-looking dude, ask him out for coffee. Roll up on your business idea and make it happen, because being 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 and regretting that you didn't swing the bat is the worst regret of them all. Just give it a try, guys. I believe in what I'm doing. I know that it works. So if you are ready, if you want to quit your job, man, become your own boss. Like it's time, all right? How would it feel if you had an extra $5,000, $10,000 in your bank account 5 weeks from now? Like a picture, imagine it, make it a goal, make it a reality, right? We want to manifest these things. What would it feel like? Have control of your time, work from wherever you want, whenever you want. Would you love to go on a vacation whenever you want? You don't have to ask for permission. Stay as long as you want. How about, being a better provider for your family? Are you ready to give up that 9-to-5 grind? Are you ready to stop living for the weekend? Just, I don't know, do whenever you want. Matter of fact, now I think about it, I owe Jade. I got to take her to Universal sometime next week. I can go whenever I want. And that's what I'll do. So again, just a reminder of what you're getting here, guys. The challenge officially begins on July 6th. But you want to get in now because there's some prerequisite work for you to do. And the more of that work that you can do, the faster you're kind of guaranteed to get that next deal done, right? You don't want to be starting this ideally on the 6th. So again, Wholesale Mike University, worth $29.97 in value. Secret Facebook Mastermind Group $4.97. Lifetime access to group mentoring. This is lifetime. I work with you guys, forever. Those bi-weekly coaching calls $29.97. 30-day access with setup training to my CRM that includes your data, your lists, your dialer system, your skip tracing, MLS access, electronic document signing, comps, cash buyers, all the tools, and helping you set that up. That's worth $5.99 in value. Also, I think I said skip tracing. 30 days of step-by-step instruction, $19.97, and access to my buyers. I'm going to sell your deal for you, valued at $49.97. Again, I just figured about half of what a regular deal is worth. The total value here is $14,084. All right. So congratulations to everyone signing up. Really, really excited about this. Really, really looking forward to working with you guys. I'm going to just back up really quickly and throw that up there. That is the link if you guys are ready to join. wholesalingwithmike.info/30-day challenge. So I'm going to leave that right there. I'm going to thank you guys so much for joining me here. And on that note, make sure you go over to that website. It's basically going to recap everything I talked about today. There's a lot more, testimonials and proofs on there. I'm actually going to be adding a lot more tonight. If you're watching this in real time, I'll be adding a lot more to there because I have a lot more. But really, again, looking forward to working with you guys here. So thank you again so much for joining me, and I really look forward to seeing you guys on the and not only seeing you guys, but working with you guys actively every single day and making some money with you and getting you results, like getting you actual results, actually getting you to do a deal. I know some of you guys have been working this for months and months and months. Does not need to be this way. And also remember, I'm handling one of the hardest or most difficult parts of the process for you by selling your deal. So really look forward to working with you and getting you that deal in the next 30 days. Talk to you guys soon.